So for the next part of the class, we'll be using a database that is used by some of the MySQL, like their certification exams. So this is a simple database having countries, the cities that are in the countries, and the languages that are spoken by the different countries. So there's a simple database that we use. I'll go through discussing some questions that we'd like to ask about the system. And then using that, we'll learn some of the queries. So we'll learn about selecting, putting tables together, grouping information, counting information. Those are the main things that any database system, someone can ask you, how many students are there, how many students did this course. Through this example, hopefully you should be able to answer some of those. So I'm going to be using this as the example. Okay, so there are two ways. Someone is asking, how can you determine functional dependencies? So if you have sample data, such as there's data in the table, that can help. Because even if you haven't spoken to anybody, just by looking at the patterns of information, you can guess what the functional dependencies are. Or at least infer some very likely functional dependencies. Another method is to simply ask the client or the system, whoever is running the system you're going to implement for, ask them, oh, is this going to mean that every time I see maybe driver's license, this name should follow? Anytime I see one, this code should follow. So those are the two options that are available to you. Okay, so sometimes what will happen, so in real life, what would happen is you can go to a company or you're asked to work for a company and someone has been entering data in Excel. Someone who is not a database system expert or anything, he has just been entering data. And he says, oh, well, I've been entering data about all the people who have been coming, and these are all the columns I have. And then you have to discuss with the person, okay, what does this mean? If you wrote ID1, what does it mean? What does it lead to? Does it mean that it's a money event? Is it a time of day? Is it a clock? So sometimes the data is already there. And then you have to discuss with the person who you are implementing for, your customer, even your boss or your coworker, exactly what they meant. I hope you understand. People, everybody, not just database people, are keeping data. Some of them are in Excel sheets. Some of them are in Microsoft Word. Some of them are in Notepad scribbled somewhere. And you have to discuss with them. The thing you have written, what does it mean? Right. Okay, so let's look at the country. It's called a world database. It was in the pen drive that was given out. Oh, please, if you have one of these, please return so that we can load it with more data. Right. So if you have one of them, please make sure you bring it back, because I currently have just one. So in the DB list, one of them is called Mysql Samples. These are samples that MySQL uses for their certification exams. So we'll be going through, every week we'll pick one. Today is the world database. It's the smallest, right? So what you do is, you can go to the world, there's InnoDB or world version, any of them is fine, right? And you can extract the SQL. After you extract the SQL, you will have a file containing several queries that will both create and insert data. So there's a city table, there is a country table, and also a country languages table. Let me just fix this one, then I'll make it a PNG and make it larger. Okay, so this is... And as you can see, when you reconnect the lines, sometimes you have to what? Remove and correct the columns so that it appears as you want. Right. Because a lot of these user interfaces, what they do is they add on extra columns as you drag and drop, add lines to it. Right. So this is my design, or not my design, it's MySQL's design. Export as PNG. I always encourage people to do this in case what? You are going to present to someone. You can even present to me, but still do it anyway. Anytime you do the diagram in some proprietary format, export in PNG, so that if someone receives it, doesn't have the software, they can still what? View your output. Okay, so world.png. So I'm going to blow this up so that we can all take a look and agree. Alright, so this is my world.png. So is everyone comfortable with the schema? There's a country table that has name, continent, region. It's actually a very nice database. So many questions we can ask. Population, life expectancy. Forgot what GNP means. I have to go and search. Local name, national product. What does that mean? GDP minus imports. So you do your GDP and you subtract off the imports. Gross national product. That's why it's good you are doing. It's what, macro, or is it micro you did it in? Okay. So you have gross national product, two values, current and old, local name, the form of government, the head of state. This may not be recent. So if I query and what you expect doesn't come out, don't throw chairs or anything. All right. You have capital and a second code that can identify the country. Right. You also have the city. So you have name, district, population. So there are several cities that they've added in. And the language that the country speaks. So country code and language. So what you are seeing here is, even though code is the primary key of country, code is also forming the country language. The primary key is composed of the country code and the language code. So there are two things that are being put together to represent what? The languages that the country speaks. So it means in this table, in the country table, the codes are going to be unique. But in the country language table, the country codes are not going to be unique. Right? But the combination of country code and language will be unique. Right? And as well, we have, all the cities. But the cities are just identified by ID. But there's a country code foreign key that tells you which country each city is coming from. Can I? Okay, so in the city, what they are recording is they are just numbering the cities with an ID. Right? But what they'll do is, in order to determine which city the country comes from, which city belongs to which country, they have a country code here. Which one, so they'll write maybe Accra and GH, is it GHA? So they will point. We'll find out what Ghana's country code is very soon.
Why is country code not unique?
For what? Because one country can have more than one language. So this will not have all the possibilities. But the international languages that the countries forward. So some countries, I think Canada, maybe there's French, English. Some countries have more than 2 or 3 official languages. Right? So we are going to search it and see whether or not Ghana is just English. Right? Okay, so let's begin. Right? So what I'm going to be using is, I know people don't like it, but just so that people can learn something new. Sorry. Please note that everything I'm doing, you can do it if you are using the MySQL workbench. So you can start, please, when you are trying to create the database, what you have to do is, you can make a new tab like this. Right click, create a new, you have to do this for the lab. So please, in yours, just create a new schema. You can give the schema any name that you want. And after you create the schema, you can make a tab. Refresh this very quickly. Oh, my new schema didn't create. Okay, apply. Want to create this, finish. After my new schema is created, set as default. And then go and copy the code for creating this table. You have been doing this to me, so now I think it's time someone else did it to you. Sending you some code to run, right? So it's called the world database. It's going to be in the files that you picked from me. I'll put a link on the course page. But today, when you get time, right, either download from the course page, or if you, from the pen drive, there was DB folder, Mysql Samples. One of them is called world.sql. Any of the world SQLs is fine. Right? So you have to run this. Right now, if you run this, yours is going to take quite a while. But it just has create table, the same thing that you've been sending to me. Has some creates and insertions that we have to run and then look through. So that is what you are getting here. So please, it's possible to write the queries right here. To write the queries and say select star from, so let me just do an example. set as default, select star from country, do run. This is listing all the countries, right? But what I'll be doing is I'll be using, wow. Okay. Oh, come on. Right. I'll be using command line just to show you that there are other ways to do this, right? Eventually, you will have to learn some command line so that you can be more versatile, right? So you don't need to always rely on the workbench to run your queries, right? So edit. Just going to make this font a little bit bigger, then we can begin. Hello.
It says there's encoding name.
Let's finish and then. So let me run through this. It's being recorded, then we can. Okay. So wherever you installed your MySQL to, in your MySQL folder, so something that before the end of this week, make sure that you are comfortable with it. Wherever you installed MySQL to, so let me go to MySQL where I installed it. Mine is in system. Okay. Some people it's in program files, but you can pick where you installed it. So please, when you are installing, hopefully you are not just kicking next. But okay. So mine is in a server folder 5.6. This is why I installed it. There's a bin folder. Inside this bin, there's a program called MySQL. Remember, MySQL was the daemon. MySQL is the client, right? And so it means that if I type, okay, command prompt, people are wondering how, hey, I remember I put up a link saying that go and learn how to do command prompts. Did people do it? My internet is off, else I would have brought it. Please, in the what's it called? The news forum, there's a link for one of the days. There was a link where I said, please, everybody should what? Learn how to do command prompt. And I put a link in there with a command prompt tutorial. Please, if you have not looked at it, I will leave that one as an exercise to you. I want you to Google. So next class, I will ask you why you have to learn command prompt. Yes. I showed you a way last time. Okay. So, command window here. So, for this one, some people say shell, command prompt, it's the same thing. Terminal, people use the same. They just mean that it's a black screen where you can type commands. Let me finish this, and after, you can't get here when you type MySQL. So if you type MySQL, if your server is not running, remember, you can't connect. So I'm recording this because I want people to at least try this Friday. I know you like your workbench. It's beautiful, it's nice. But learn other tools, right? So, user, you can specify where your user is, and -P to specify that you want to enter password. If you are wondering how I learned all of this, before all of this happened, there was --help. It's a long file. I know it's bringing out all the help files. Right. So I type what? MySQL. Let me make the font a little bit bigger. That's too big. Right. So MySQL --help. Right. Let me. Okay. Make sure that. So if you do this, most programs are in command shell. If you do this, it will tell you what to do with it. So for example, if someone types CD and you don't know what it is, you can type CD. Okay, this one doesn't, but let's go through all the options. There's also /. Okay, so those who are on, I did this /?. That's also another way to ask it, what are all the things I can do? So please, the command prompt, don't let it be something scary for you. get comfortable with command prompt. Today, I'm not using the workbench. You can do the queries I'm doing in the workbench, but I'm going to use command line only so people can learn something new. So, MySQL, and in the MySQL -help, one of the options that comes up is -u. You can specify your username, -p. This means that using that username, what is the password? If you know your password, please, if you follow along, you may get lost to try and type everything. But I have a question. Oh, it says my password is wrong. Why? Okay, now it has worked. Question. Not the username for the PC, the username for the MySQL. So your roots. When you created roots, you had some users. If you created roots, usually you have some password as well. If you never set a password, you can just say MySQL-u root and it will let you go in. But if you've set a password before, and in my case I have, you have to say MySQL user, and you see the P at the end means that ask me for the password. If I didn't put P at the end, so sorry, trying to make it stop. Sorry. Oh, come on. I should say \Q. Oh, why is it not? Stop it. Come on. And it's also caps. Jeez. Okay. I got a lowercase. It was this. I wanted a lowercase. So to stop and leave the shell, \Q should let you leave. So as I said, without the P, it'll try and connect without the password. With the P, it will ask you for the password. And mine is, I almost said it aloud. Okay. So, if you are in the command prompts, you will want to ask what databases are currently available. You'd say, show databases. See, it's very easy. If I want to use a database, I would say use, and in this case, mine is called Sample World. So now it means that what? It says database change. This is the same thing that is in the workbench, but it's what? Through command line. You have been using workbench for a while, so coming here, hopefully, you are familiar with your own databases. So this should just be what? Practice. Now, if you want to find out what tables are there in this database, show tables. And you can see it's showing what? Country, city, country language. What if you want to know what columns are available within a table? You can say describe, for example, country. Note the semicolons at the end. Right. You can also have, so this one is a little bit long. So I'll say maybe describe city. Right. Remember, when I don't have semicolon, it what tells you that the command has ended. So anytime you write a command, if you don't have a semicolon, it will just keep showing arrow, like keep entering. So it says that this is what I have in city. Right. So if I wanted to list all the countries, one of the commands that you have been using is select star from. Right? Select star from means get me all of the possible columns that exist from a certain database. So select star from country. Wow, that's a lot. It's hard to read this. Yeah, that's a lot. Alright, but we can't even see the columns or anything. Right? So what I'll do is, I'll pick just one row. So what I'm doing is I'll put what? Limit 1. You can say limit 2, limit 3, limit 4. But that would what? Reduce how many things are coming onto the screen. You can do this when you're in Workbench. But I'm using command prompt just to show you why it's nice to be able to know so many commands. So it's saying currently that I have country code, name, continent, region, surface area, independence year, population, life expectancy, GNP, old, new, local, all these. And this is one of them, Aruba, North America, Caribbean. That's the surface area. Okay, so there are all these things that are coming out. So it's more or less random. Often it will go and pick the first two we can find. And that often means the order in which the data was inserted will pick the first two. So please don't rely on this that it would always bring you the same results. Sometimes when you say limit, it may bring you the last, it may bring you the... But for most of them, what they do is they'll just go to the top of the file and bring you two. It tends to be the same. But don't write your code depending on this. For example, don't assume that because every time, like on my machine, when I do limit 1, it brings me Aruba. That means that on your machine, you should get Aruba. One day, depending on how the insertions and updates, things may be in a different order, you get something different. Right. Now, this is a general select statement. If I wanted to pick specific columns, I can list them. Code, name, there's continent, region. I like this database table. So many things we can do. Anyway, so I have what? I can pull out code, name, continent, and region. I'm limiting to 1, so that's what I have. But if I have no limit, right, that's a long list. Right. So what we are doing, so from select star, if you want to pick specific columns, you can what? List them out. Code, name, country, so on. Right. Now, one of the things you realize is some countries are from Africa. So we'd like to be able to pick maybe all the African countries. Right. So all I need to do is, after the where, so there's currently no where, but I can add where, and then what do I need? Continent is equal to, isn't that nice? Right. So that means that for a lot of the systems that you have, the data will be there, and then someone can ask you questions about it. Right. So there's Africa. What if you want West Africa? There's continent and region, right? And you can see that region has West Africa, Southern Africa, and so on. You can add some of the logical operations and or the same things you know in programming within the where part. So for example, where continent is Africa and region equals Western. That's my West African countries. Right. What if I wanted Eastern African? That means I'll change my query a little bit. Hello. They are not case sensitive. This, or you mean the name of the place? The name is case sensitive because that is what has been entered. But it's like, okay, sorry, Java is not like that. VB is like that. The if statement and so on, they are not case sensitive. So it means that it's actually the internal data that will be case sensitive, but not the commands. So it doesn't matter if you decide to do, going to do the nastiest code you've seen. Right? It will still work. All of that is not case sensitive either. You can do this. The columns are not case sensitive. MySQL, yes, but the data inside is. So if I say it's called Africa, if I use little a, it wouldn't work. Oh, wait. A, does it mean, okay. So so I have to warn about this. So some of the database systems, what they do is they have what is called collation. How they compare one character with another. Depending. So don't rely on the fact that here it's worked, that, oh, from now on, because it's no guarantee, right? For any table design, usually it can specify how it's comparing data. So let me do, right. So it just means that for this particular implementation, they are not checking for case sensitivity. But the reason why I'm saying is for passwords and so on, we do this. And when you do it, and let's say, that's why if you're logging with passwords, we will hash the code. But if we hash, because every character is treated differently, even when, so sometimes people are asking, I think, same with IT, but when you ask them, I can't log in, they would say, are you using caps lock? Are you not using, so it's something we tend to ask. Because a lot of systems, what they'll do is, when they are going to encode the information, the case sensitivity does matter. So here it's behaving this way. There's no guarantee that it will always be this, but it depends on the collation. That is how the texts are compared. Right. So please don't rely on this here that every time you can just ignore the case sensitivity. Right. So you have now Africa, well, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and so on. Right. So is everyone okay with how you get information from a table and pick certain columns? You can use this approach. Select, you list your columns. where, and then you specify this and this and this and so on. Right. Now, the next thing that is possible is, let's search for Ghana. So, Ghana is in West Africa, right? Western Africa. Ghana's code is GHA. I think these are the international ISO codes. You would see this in a lot of computer systems when they are trying to identify countries or country codes. They'll be using 3-letter codes, right? So Ghana is 3HA, meaning that if I wanted to get Ghana, we will select star from country where what code is equal to GHA. So this is the information, as I said. Don't go crazy if it's not very recent. But at least this is, I think it's from a, wow, okay. So about 12 years ago, perhaps. Right, because the current president is not Kufuor. It's John Mahama. Okay, so you have, okay, so John Kufuor was the president at that time. So it means that if, for example, I ask you to go and find who is the president of some country, head of state, you can what? You can pull specifically certain information from the database. Right. Now, what if I wanted to find out the cities that are currently in the system that are from Ghana? Remember that when I do select star, this is a dangerous one, but I'll do it. From city. Yeah. So all the cities that are tied to all the countries. And this is even worse because realize that Brazil is still going. Great Britain, a lot. Ecuador. Okay. What I did was I hit Ctrl-C to stop this because it's becoming a little bit too many. What I'll do is, what did we say was the link between the cities? So, sorry, not this one. I need my diagram. Nope. Oh, where's my workbench? I know I had a nice workbench. Oh, here we go. Okay, so how do we link city to country? It was country code. Hey, please, this, you'll be doing this on Friday. So, the city is linked to country using what? The country code. We are almost 10 more minutes, right? 1 minute. Okay, so I'll do this one, and then Wednesday, first thing, I'll continue. So the city is linked to country using what? The country code. So that means that I can say, select star from city, where, or is this a snapshot? Okay. Where country code is equal to, okay. So that means these are the country, the cities that are what? Within my system as far as Ghana is concerned. Right. So please, what I'll do is, this thing will be put up. So when you have time, between now and Wednesday, the queries that I've done here, and you can explore more. But on Wednesday, when we come, we'll look at how do we put two tables together without always having to specify GHA and so on. We have to have the way to put it together. We also ask, how do we count and do statistics? And how do we even figure out how many countries are within a continent? How many countries are within a region? Like how many are in West Africa, East Africa, and so on. So we'll continue that on Wednesday. So today, make sure that on the database, the pen drive I gave you, there's a world database. You get it running, install it, and try the few queries that I've tried. So Wednesday, we can go further, putting more data together. Thank you very much.